Okay, if we go back to our EDG, we have now made FSM for apply treatment. For treatment it's a default. We have the one for diagnosis, so we're left with the three top objects. Doctor has a default one. We didn't identify any events for a doctor, so we are still left with illness and patient. So let's start with patient. So for patient, we create a patient role. The main thing about the patient was that the patient can give a consent. So let's assume that when a patient initially is created, a patient is without consent, and the other state would be in consent. Okay, so how can we move from one to the other? When the patient is without consent, we can give consent, and when it's in consent, we go back to without consent by retracting the consent. What can we do when a patient is without consent? Well, we can pose a diagnosis, end a diagnosis, we can approve a diagnosis, we can disapprove a diagnosis, we can create treatments and end treatments, but all when we are in stage 1. As soon as we want to upgrade and downgrade the patient, then we need a consent. So we cannot do the upgrade, probably we can do downgrades. And we see here also no consent of the patients are needed to move a treatment to stage 3 when the priority score of the illness is high, so we can also do a priority upgrades. So this is all the stuff we can do when a patient is without consent. What can we do when a patient is in consent? We can probably still pose diagnoses, new ones, define new treatments. We can now, since the patient is in consent, also upgrade a stage, downgrade a stage, do priority upgrades, have the diagnosis approved and disapproved. Okay, so here we are. So what's the difference between being in consent and not? Is that here we have the upgrade stage and here we don't have the upgrade stage. And for the rest, the two states allow quite a lot of activities. Check. It's okay. Then the last one we have to do is the illness. So let's create an illness row. Illness row here. We assume that when we create an illness, it's in stage low, and that later on we can put it in stage high. We do this by upgrade illness. Here, upgrade illness, and we go back with downgrade illness, and we can end the patient and the illness in all stages. Which make me think that I forgot in the patient role exactly to add the end patient here as well. So minor correction for this one. Never forget to add end events in all states unless you really don't want that to happen. Okay, this looks a bit better. What can you do when the illness is low? You can create treatments and end treatments. You can create applied treatments and end applied treatments. You find here other methods, create applied treatment and end applied treatment, that are disabled. I will explain that in a minute. That's because we have a multiple propagation constraint that says that the illness for an applied treatment is the same whether you go via treatment or via diagnosis. In any case, you will find the same. When an illness is in stage low, you can do the normal upgrade of the stage. You can do the normal downgrade of the stage. The disabled methods are here, but not a priority upgrade. The priority upgrade is when it is high. Can you approve a diagnosis? Yes. Can you disapprove a diagnosis? Yes. Can you create a diagnosis? Yes. And end a diagnosis? Yes. So the only thing you cannot do is a priority upgrade, and an upgrade illness leads to another state, and a downgrade illness is not allowed either. So this would be what you can do when the illness is in stage low. What can you do when it is in stage high? You cannot upgrade illness, you can downgrade, but that would be another state. You can create treatments, you can end treatments, you can create and apply treatments, you can pose a diagnosis and approve and disapprove that illness, and then the important thing is you can do a priority upgrade. We'll assume that you cannot downgrade, because for that you need first to put the illness back into low, and then only you can downgrade the stages. You can not upgrade the stage because you will be in stage 3, so the only way to upgrade is by the priority upgrade immediately to 3. So again, you have these disabled methods that are not used, but that's not a problem. So this would be then what is allowed in stage high. Check. We see here a number of unused events, but these are exactly the events that were disabled, so we don't have non-determinism, so this finite state machine is okay as well. Let's look at this multiple propagation constraint here. So what it says is that when you have an applied treatment, you can find an illness that corresponds to the treatment that you are applying. This illness should be the same as the illness that you have defined during your diagnosis for which you chose the applied treatment. And as a result of that, in the object event table here, you see a number of disabled methods. They are gray, and these are the ones that are not used in your finite state machine, but that's not a problem. Okay. So, we're done with our model. Everything has been included. If we read the text, we see that doctor has to approve the diagnosis. So we saw that here in the FSM of diagnosis. And then when it has been approved, you can do everything. A treatment can go through 3 stages. Actually, that's the applied treatment. So 1, 2, 3 stages. The first stage is the weakest. That's okay. No consent is necessary by the patient. Let's look at the patient. So when you create a patient without consent, you can put the diagnosis, approve it or disapprove it, create the treatments. You cannot upgrade it, but you can go back to a lower state, and you can do the priority stage upgrade as what formulated here. So that would be okay. To move the treatments from stage 1 to another stage, consent is needed by the patient. So as we said, patient needs to sign a form. That would be the business process. But once the consent has been given, any applied treatment for that patient can be moved to a higher stage. So you give consent, and then you can upgrade the stages, and you can also downgrade them. And you can do that for all the treatments without the need to ask consent again. When the patient retracts his consent, here, retract consent, you cannot upgrade anymore, so that's okay. Patients with a treatment in a stage 3 require a higher follow-up rate and will be checked more often by nurses. That's a business process aspect. Once the higher follow-up rate isn't needed anymore for a specific treatment for a patient, the treatment can downgrade again to lower stages. That's what we have seen here. Downgrade, downgrade, and in the role of the patient you see that you can downgrade when the patient is in consent, but you can also downgrade when the patient is without consent. Illnesses also get a priority score. The priority score can change at any given time. You see that here. You can upgrade and downgrade the illnesses. When an illness gets priority score high, all applied treatments for that illness are immediately placed into stage 3 by means of a priority stage upgrade. Here you can see you can upgrade the illness and then you can do a repeated priority upgrade. The fact that you have to do that immediately after upgrade illness is something that you cannot capture in the finite state machine. That will be the subject of a transaction in the information system layer. So this fact that you have to do the things together, do the upgrade of the illness and then put all the treatments in stage 3, that's something that we will capture and take care of in the information system layer. And then the last one, no consent of the patient are needed to move the statement to stage 3 when the priority score of the illness is high. That is something we can see in the patient role. When the patient is without consent, we can do the priority upgrade. So we're ready. Our solution is finished.